She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstine.
Well, hey, hi, hello. I'm so happy to be visiting with you again. Today on the Mac Outdoors podcast, I am visiting with a friend, colleague, and cohort in the industry, Adrian Jessen. She is the co-host of Review This Thing, and that is a YouTube show. So if you want to check that out, I will have it linked in the show notes. There are different things that maybe we'll discuss, and I'll have those included below as well. If you have questions or would like to make comment, please reach out. The email address is contact@miaanstine.com, or follow us on social media and go comment or message over there. Mac Outdoors is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and myself, Mia Anstine, I am on most social media outlets. So I hope you enjoy the show. There are some great turkey hunting stories and tales, and I just wanted to ask you one question before we get going. During this adventure, this is a first-time Merriam's hunt, I actually had an opportunity to tag a bird, but I opted to pass because I didn't want to get one before my buddy. What would you do? Is that, would you just go for it and all about you, or is it all about the friends, the colleagues, the great adventures, and the good time? Let me know. I would love to hear it. As I said, social media or email, let me know.
This summer, whether at the range or in the field, WSI Sports Hyper-Tech bamboo tanks, tees, and leggings will have you covered. Visit WSISports.com to support the show and use the affiliate code MACO10 for 10% off your purchase. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI is bringing back pride in American-made clothing. Again, that code is MACO10 for 10% off your order at WSISports.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mac Outdoors podcast. Today, I'm super excited because I have one of my friends here with me, and we met at the Professional Outdoor Media Association, which I talked about a lot on the podcast, actually. But today, I have my friend Adrian here, and she's been visiting. Yes. And we've been hanging out, and I have a lot of things I want to talk about. So we'll see how far we get.
That's right. Let's do it.
So Adrian, will you please say hello to my audience and tell them a little about yourself?
Okay. So I'm Adrian, and I am the creator and now part co-host, I suppose, of Review This Thing YouTube channel, where my husband and I basically got the idea a couple years ago that we were not pleased with most of the reviews that we would see. Just weren't getting all the information in one place. Just got tired of watching video after video and still not knowing what we wanted to know. So decided we were like, we might do an okay job at reviewing stuff. So started a YouTube channel. I think it was in 2020. We started in May-ish of 2020 and just having a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of fun. We have a really good time doing it.
Yeah. So 2020, about 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years or so.
Yeah.
And what was the very first thing you reviewed?
So we started off very purposefully not to just do outdoor stuff. So it was strategic to have very random assortment of things. So the very first thing we reviewed were the Bose, I think they're called the QCI noise canceling earbuds.
Okay.
So that was the very first thing. And then did did a frozen pizza. Oh. And then, it was very sporadic because I was trying not to get kind of pigeonholed into one thing, but then just by nature of what we actually like doing and then of course everybody tells you should find a niche. So
right.
That whole find a niche and what do you like to do? So it's a lot easier to review stuff we actually use.
Yeah.
So now it's much more outdoors, a lot of hunting and shooting and that sort of thing, but a general outdoors content as well.
Yeah. And so through the YouTube, as you've started to grow that When I met you, you were kind of like, how do I get 1,000 subscribers? And I remember giving you guys some tips and stuff. And I know you've probably gone way beyond that. And actually, I know you've gone way beyond that, because how many subscribers are you at now?
In theory, by Sunday, we should have over 10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
I know. I love it. Yeah, I think I had like 600 when I met you, 500 or 600, something like that. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey, but the 10,000 mark is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Are you gonna celebrate? Will you do like something special on the channel?
Probably.
When you do that?
Yeah. When we get home. Yeah. Probably. I'm not sure exactly what yet, but we'll have to do something. That's a pretty big deal.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a pretty big deal. We can't just let that one go. We'll have to do something.
Too cool. And so you said you've kind of expanded into hunting, shooting, outdoorsy stuff. As you're doing that, obviously you came out here to do something outdoorsy.
Right.
And I definitely want to talk about that. But what are some of the key things that you've focused on recently that you think your viewers, and there is one that I've watched in a series that I watched, but what are some things that you think most everybody like, or what's popular for you?
Yeah. So right now, we learned last year that turkey hunting gear you can't review. Basically, once it hits like April, people aren't really paying attention anymore. I guess they've done all their research prior to season and they've moved on. So we learned that this year and did a better job of putting that stuff out early. But we did this whole series of TSS pattern testing with 410 shotguns, and people they've just loved that. So we were just going to do one, and it did really well. And then we were like, and then people were like, oh, you should try this ammo. You should try this ammo. So we were like, okay. So then we would try that, and then somebody's like, oh, you need to try this shotgun. So we picked up another shotgun and then met a few choke tube manufacturers. And they're like, oh, well, let us send you a choke. So yeah, we did, I think 8 total, like pattern testing, choke tube videos that all did, pretty well for us. So it was a lot of fun too. We'll probably do a lot more of those next year too. Like go ahead and shoot them and then just have them ready.
Yeah.
So we can get them out in like January, February. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. People really like that.
And then you can kind of beat the curve, like you said, of, okay, we're talking turkey and it's the middle of season. People are out hunting. They're not probably watching a lot of videos.
Yeah.
Something that I thought when I watched your guys' patterning videos, where did you come up with the idea of how many shots in the radius and all that kind of stuff? Was that from other videos, or did you guys come up with that?
So we came up with it, but we didn't, if that makes sense. So we thought we came up with it. But then whenever you like talk to other people, like, because we used a 6-inch circle, because we were like, that's about the size of a turkey's head. And we used the lid of a coffee can because it was like, oh yeah, it's about 6 inches. So that's what we used. And we were like, we're just curious because you can look at something and be like, oh yeah, that looks good. But, can you really quantify it? But then as we posted videos, people were like, what size circle is that? The standard's kind of a 10-inch circle. Can you use a 10-inch circle? So we were like, oh, well, you didn't come up with that.
Yeah.
So on the newer ones, we did a 28 gauge video and there's another one that we haven't posted that we'll wait till next year. But so we did a 10-inch and a 6-inch. So we're like, following the rules.
Get it dialed in. Yeah. And so when you were dialing it in and you're looking for how many holes are going to be in that shot, and I know like one of them was hitting up high left. Were you adjusting sights to move it down, or?
Not yes and no, because we didn't want to change too much because we wanted to see kind of how each one shot. One thing we'll also do different is have a blank paper behind it too. So if we miss too much of it, then we'll be able to see that next year. So that's a fun thing too. You always learn.
So something larger that's behind the actual target.
Instead of just the target, there'll be a blank paper. So like if the whole pattern was here, you can still make sure you're getting.
Yeah.
So
to kind of see that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so tell us, you got these different tests, and then you've got your setup because you're out here turkey hunting.
Right.
Tell us about your setup.
So the one I hunted with was a Mossberg 500 410 pump that I used a TrueLock 385 constriction choke with, a Burris Fast Fire 3, and the ammunition that gave us the tightest pattern, the most pellets in that 6-inch circle was Viper ammunition, which is actually a fairly, I think, brand new round. But talked to the manufacturers and got a couple boxes, and it's impressive. Like we shot it out of the CVA Scout, we shot it out of that Mossberg, and then we shot it out of the Mossberg SA28. Not that load, obviously, a 28 gauge load. but they all did really well. So, that's one thing that was really fun about all those tests was find like the Viper did really well out of that Mossberg 500, and it did pretty well out of all of them. But then like out of the Scout, there was a round called Salt Creek that did really well out of this one particular setup. And then out of that Mossberg 28, like the Verdict rounds did really well. So it's fun to, and not everybody can do that, you know, because it's not cheap at all. If we paid attention to how much money we spent doing it, we probably would have stopped. But yeah, because those things are not cheap. But so not everybody can do that. So it's fun too to like make these videos where people can look and go, oh, I have a CVA Scout or Mossberg 500. What choke would do well in what round?
And, what round is my gun like and the combination. And so you ended up with your setup. And then did you put an optic on yours?
Yeah, Burris Fastfire 3 red dot was the one that's on mine. And then we got that Mossberg SA28 and figured all that out, which we have a lot more work to do on that because we had used the stock choke and a True Lock choke and settled with the True Lock choke and a Verdict ammunition round. And that one has the Loophole Delta Point Pro on it. So doing some testing on all that stuff as well, just to figure out, what are the pros and cons of the red dots, and that's fun too, because, so much of it though is preference. Like rarely are you going to get something and it's going to be garbage, like total garbage. I mean, maybe if you get it like a $30 one off Amazon, it's probably going to be garbage.
Maybe.
Yeah. If you get, because we've tried the Burris Fastfire 2, 3, there's one from Sightmark we've used, Axion, Loophole, the Vortex Venom, a Hawk Circle Dot, and they're all going to do great.
And how did you decide on the one that you landed on?
This year? Not a good, it fit.
Okay.
We could find a mount for that gun that one would fit on. So that and I had it and I needed to put it on something. So we just put it on that.
Put it on there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that it was any better feature or anything like that. Okay.
No,
cool.
because we haven't done all the reviews on those yet to pick like a best of or whatever. So
that's something that might be coming in the future?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fun.
I thought that was cool how you're doing the different series and comparisons and, pros and cons. That's really cool to see. I mean, because as you said, not everybody has the opportunity. And for me, it's like, I don't have time to do all of what you guys are doing.
Right.
So oh, cool. Yeah. They're doing this. Let's see.
Which one should I get? That one. Great. Perfect.
And so I'm not going to lie. When you told me what you were bringing, I was like, oh, okay. And I had seen all your tests, but still, I was just like, Merriam's are pretty big birds, and I was like, well, let's see how it does. And that's why I was like, please let her get a bird. I want to see what happens. Please let her get a bird. And so when you guys decided that you wanted to come out, I know 2 years ago, I had told you come to me.
Yeah. So we were like, hey.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I want to come. We're ready.
Yeah.
When you guys decided to come out, what was your thought or your expectation of coming to hunt in Colorado?
Gosh, I I didn't really have any. It was, just the opportunity to be somewhere different and see a whole different environment and the way the land is and the trees are different and, and a different bird because, we've only ever hunted Easterns. So I'd see if they act different, we'd watched a few videos, of course, and you never know until you actually see them and hear them and how they're going to be. So I don't know. I really didn't have any. I mean, obviously I was hoping we would come kill a couple birds, but more just the experience of doing something different was what I was excited about.
Yeah. What kind of preparation, other than all the testing of the shotguns, what other preparation did you guys do to head out here?
So nothing different other than our season started a couple weeks ago. So we've been out a couple times back home already. We've already hunted 3 or 4 times, I think. So just getting out and making sure we have, all of I got a new vest. And so just making sure everything was set up and ready. And the guns were, we knew how to work everything. We know how to work a gun, but how to carry it and where we wanted it to go. Cause both of us were using different guns than we had been using for years. So that was the big thing. And, we try to stay in decent shape anyway. So thinking ahead of making sure you're hydrated and all that stuff because of the different elevation, and that was probably the biggest different thing was just trying to prepare for different elevations and different humidity, and
Yeah.
it's very different.
Very dry.
Very, very different. Very, very different. Yes.
And do you think your setup that you had way better than the old shotgun, or?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. Because my old shotgun, or the other one that I had used for years was a Remington 870 20 gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's crazy, especially like I think last year I hunted with that, with some Apex ammunition and a Stoger 20 gauge with the Verdict. And I mean, it's a 20 gauge, so with TSS, so it just, ridiculous, like crazy patterns. Everything's super tight. There's tons of pellets going down range. So I wouldn't say it's better. I would just really want to try hunting with a 410, and I like it. So, but yeah,
Were you at all nervous about the 410, or you were pretty confident in it?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, there was always that part that's like, well, if there's too much in between me and the bird, is it gonna, if there's brush or something that's gonna take some of the shell or the pellets. But I felt pretty confident in what it could do if I could get a good shot within like 40 yards. Like I felt like if I could get that shot, it would do what it was supposed to do. But I didn't. I was a little concerned if there was too much stuff in between, because last year when I was hunting with that Stoger, I had to shoot through like a little tree, but it was 20 gauge. So it just and it blew through, like you could see where the tree was all splintered. And so I was like, I don't know if this is going to do that, but
yeah, didn't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
So you came out and tell us a little bit about your first day out.
So the first day we slept in, which was wonderful.
Well, that's not out.
That's right. So we did get to do a couple things we've never done. So we got to go horseback hunting, which I've never done ever. I've only been on a horse like 3 times, and that was for probably a grand total of about 20, maybe 15, 20 minutes tops. So that was fun just in itself, just being able to ride through that beautiful country and just relax on the horse and experience all that. So that was pretty neat. I think at that point, like hearing a bird was just bonus, just being out there and, seeing all the gorgeous, and like seeing elk while we're doing it, like stuff we never see, just walking around the woods in North Carolina. So yeah. And then that evening, well, actually we set up and just kind of hung out for a while. And then while we were hanging out, we heard a couple gobble, and on different ends. So we got all set up and we're like ready because they were close and we were all excited. And then I think they decided they didn't want to get in a fight. So
yeah,
they kind of wandered off and did not come back. But that was, I'd say that was just icing on the cake of the experience
for the day.
Yeah.
And so for you as a listener, we slept in because you guys showed up pretty late.
Yeah.
And
Flew all day,
not super
traveled all-
late. You
yeah.
guys, we figured you might be tired, but also because of the horses, we wanted to be able to introduce you to horses, get the saddles fit to you, let you kind of get comfortable a little bit. And rather than taking off at 3 a.m. in the dark, we were like, let's take you out in the daylight and try to have a good experience. So that's part of why you got to sleep.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was mission critical. It was great.
And so for the listeners, we heard the gobbles, there's some on one end of the area and some on the other end of the area. Well, maybe there was one and a couple.
Yeah.
And as you said, who knows if they didn't want to fight or what's going on. That got pretty exciting. Of course, me, I don't know what was happening because I had to duck and cover where I couldn't
She was
hear
trying
anything.
not to let me shoot her. It's probably smart. Probably a good idea.
If you're ever in the line of fire, get out
That's
of
right.
the way.
Hide by a creek. Definitely hide by the creek.
Hid by the creek and kind of took a siesta in the sun. Actually, I didn't really sleep, but it was very relaxing by the stream.
That
there.
it was. And I feel like we heard those couple gobbles, or like we sat up, like we heard them, we got set up, and then I don't think they gobbled again. I think we just kind of hung out and waited and, called a little bit. And I think once they did that one like, hey, we're over here, then they were like, all right, let's roll out. Is that we didn't hear them again?
Totally. So, with the calls, what kind of calls have you guys done reviews on calls yet? I haven't seen a video.
We
on
haven't, because I feel like there's so many, and even like if you're reviewing like a Woodhaven call, they've got like 50,000,
right?
Or not really, but I exaggerated a bit, but then so Woodhaven. I know we've used Woodhaven mouth calls a lot, diaphragm calls. I got one this year I think it's called Tom Teasers, because they make one for small palate. Woodhaven does too. So if you have a small palate and can't use a mouth call because it makes you gag, you should definitely check out the Woodhaven and Tom Teasers, I think, have smaller ones. And those work really well. So, and then, like even the slate calls and the crystal calls, like even like I have a Woodhaven crystal call, but they have like 5. So it's tough, I think, to just pick one and review one, like the way we review it anyway.
Right.
Process.
And actually, I think maybe you could compare. I mean, you could be like, this one has this sound, this one's more raspy, this one's more sharp, maybe something like that. Yeah, I'm helping you. You're like, I know how to review stuff.
Hey, it's okay. I take all advice and help I can get. Any and all.
One thing, pro tip for a listener, is if you do have a small palate and you're going to gag on the diaphragm, you can always trim them. Sometimes just trim the back. Sometimes you need to trim the back and the sides, but do a little at a time. Don't just trim the whole thing off, because then you can't put it back on once you've trimmed it off.
And the nice thing, have you tried those? Have you seen used the small ones? Yeah, I like because even like the hard part is smaller.
Yeah.
So that, it makes a big difference.
Not
for
cutting
me.
the top of your roof of your mouth and all that stuff.
But the call that I use the most is that Woodhaven crystal call that I have, the pot call, because Robbie, my husband, is really good at the diaphragm call, the mouth call. So like he just does that, and usually I use mine when we need to be louder, or if we get in a situation where like he's going to shoot. So I'm like, well, I've got this, and I'll use this. But I really like that one. It's very easy to use.
Yeah,
for me.
For the love of the outdoors, open spaces, and mountains, shop www.mia.limited/1. The Mac Outdoors Mountains Are Calling series of apparel is perfect for you or your loved ones. Support the channel and shop now. www.mia.limited/1.
So then our second day, you actually got to ride in the dark.
Yep, which was really cool too. It was very cold as well.
Yes.
My feet were frozen a little bit. It was nice though.
It was nice to be frozen.
Well, the day was nice. The frozen feet thing was not, but the day was nice. Yeah. So that morning we actually thought we were going to get on something really early. Like it was very early, and got set up, and a giant human came walking down the road.
Oh, that was right. I was trying to remember. It's been so long.
Yeah, that's right. So we thought, we were like, oh, here comes something. And there's a dude. Another hunter walking down the road. So we're like, well,
I mean, we really did hear real turkeys. Yeah. But the dude kind of messed it up.
The dude kind of came between us and the turkeys. So that kind of ended that. And then I don't know that we heard any more, did we?
I don't think, no, that was the night before. We heard more, because that's why we ended up where we were, because we heard turkeys there getting ready to head to the roost. So no, we didn't hear more. And then we spent the afternoon going to go to a different spot, and somebody was at that spot, and then made sure we could get to the spot where we were really going to go hunting when the real hunting began.
We're about to get serious. Which I think too, like even just talking about that, especially if you're someone who has to hunt public land, unless you're one of the incredibly fortunate people to have tons of private land to hunt, like those are real things that happen. Like people are going to walk right where you're expecting the turkey to come. People are going to, last year we had somebody shoot one that we were going after that was like coming to us. And then like just before we got set up, we heard somebody, a couple 150 yards away shoot it. Like that stuff happens. People are at the spot you're going to go. So I don't know how, I always feel like that's something people need to be aware of, is there are other people.
Yeah.
And they have just as much right to be there as you do. So you can't really get mad, but just be aware so you don't get shot.
Yeah. Or so you don't shoot someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Be aware of your target is very important, and beyond.
Yeah,
super
exactly.
important.
Definitely. Yes.
Sure. So you had special gear that I thought was special gear. Anyway, you said you got your new vest. What kind of vest was that?
So I'd seen it at the NWTF convention in Nashville. It's made by Tethered, who had been very well known for saddle hunting gear. So that's really kind of what they started as with saddle hunting. But the Hunting Public guys from YouTube have done a lot of saddle hunting with Tethered. So then they paired up to design a turkey vest that would, they, like the hunting public guys got together with the tethered guys and designed this turkey vest. And Tethered makes all their stuff in the U.S. Like they sew it and design it and all that stuff. And so the cool thing about it is it's called the M2, which I think stands for mobile modular or modular mobile, something like that. But the point being that it's got a lot of like MOLLE not compartments, but areas, and it's got pouches that you can put different places, and it has a Velcro thing. So, and it cinches up really tight. So it's more of like it's meant to be where you can make it specialized and customized, but also so you can run a gun.
Yeah.
So that way it's not this big floppy.
Like,
I had this,
like what I have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is why I was checking yours out.
So far, I really like it. There's a couple things. The really neat thing that I've liked about it so far is that it had, number one, that it can cinch up tight enough to not flop around. But then it also has, because of all that MOLLE webbing, you could go online, Amazon or anywhere, and basically anything that has MOLLE compatibility, you could put on it. So like if you don't like their pouch, like I have a water bottle holder that I'd bought last year for my other vest that I just put on it. Because in this, it also has a bird bag, or you can get a hydration pack. So I got them both so I could show everybody, but I prefer the hydration pack because like here, that morning it was 24 and then got up to like 70. Mm-hmm. So you got to have somewhere to put all these extra clothes. Yeah. So it's really neat though. So far I like it. We'll see how it plays out the rest of the season, but stay tuned for that review. That'll be next year too. I don't want to waste that review now
when it's not time for it to be seen. And so Adrian's talking about big floppy packs. Story of a pack, like where we were today. I was chasing a turkey there with Hunter, and he's like, okay, they're not coming, let's go. And I had my camera because I needed content for an article. So I had my Canon camera and I had that big pack. Nice. And this pack at the time, it's like 10 years old. I don't know, maybe 15 years old, but it's adjusted as small as it will go. And it flops on the top of my thighs because I'm so short. And so we're like, let's go. And I'm like, I ran like a dump truck with a check flat tire anyway. And I'm like, okay. Got my shotgun. Like, I'm coming. And Hunter's just looking at me. He's just like,
all the turkeys have run away. Like, I don't know somebody got one. I don't know what that is. That flopping is.
Yeah. So something that cinches down is very appealing.
Yes. The vest I had 2 packs ago was huge and awful and horrible. And like the seat pad, like I tripped before because it got caught up in my knees because it hung down so low. I'm like, this one I feel like you can definitely run in and not fall on your face.
And not lose all your gear
or lose everything, yes.
Strikers aren't falling out and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So now that I've got that silliness out, tell us about day 3. Okay. So here, before we get to that, I had told you, day 1, you're going to hear a turkey.
Yep.
Day 2, you're going to see turkeys. Day 3, you're going to kill a turkey.
Yep.
Yeah. That was the plan.
That was the plan.
And it worked because Adrian's all about plans.
That's right. We got to have a plan. That's right. Can't be messing around.
So day 3, we head out to go hunt. And tell us about that, because I'll just say, first thing, we hear gobbles. Mm-hmm. And we were like, let's split up, because there were a lot of turkeys. Yeah. And so you went your way, we went our way. Tell us about it, because I was not with you.
Yeah. So it was at first, so and the same thing that had happened the day before, like they were everywhere. And then it was like we got set up on one, we kind of snuck up behind him. And we're calling, and he was answering every single time, but was walking away. Like we could just hear he just kept walking. I mean, he was hammering it every time, but just left us. And so we kind of gave up on him, and we were like, okay, well, he's heading that way.
He kind of gave you the middle feather.
Yeah, exactly. He did. He was like, ha, you want some of this, honey? You can come here. And so we also were like, well, we don't want to mess y'all up, so we're not going to worry about him anymore. Maybe he'll go to y'all. So we were like, well, let's go back into the property a little bit further. So we went in and, our kind of, I don't know if this is the correct way, but the way that we turkey hunt is we go, 100 or so yards or whatever appears appropriate, call and just make sure nothing's nearby, we're not going to spook anything, or if we can get something to answer, wait a little bit. If nothing answers, go a little bit further. So we did that a few times and never heard anything else. So we got to kind of a funnel area where you could definitely tell like things would come through that area. So since nothing was answering, we just sat down and ate our breakfast and hung out there for a while. We had a couple of mule deer walk through while we were sitting there, and we'd call and we thought we heard a couple kind of far off, kind of who knows if you did or you didn't kind of deal. But we sat there for a while and then got to the point where we're like, okay, let's go. It's time to get moving. So took off back up further into the edge. Still calling, not hear anything, not hear anything. So we get to basically the back where we were getting ready to turn around and start heading back. So we were on top of this hill, and Robbie had been doing all the calling. So he's like, why don't, get your call out and call. So I grabbed that crystal call and called a few times, and I had a couple of hens answer us. Probably, I don't know, maybe 100 yards away, like down in this bottom where all these trees were. So he's like, well, let's get set up. I mean, maybe they got a time with them. So we get up in the back, like crawl up in this tree, this big kind of cedar tree that was in the shade. So that was very strategic. The sun would have been shining from behind us toward anything in front of us. And we were like in the shade.
So they definitely would see if you had any motion.
Yeah. So but they couldn't see anything our way. We could see them great, but they couldn't see us. So we sit there, and I was just kind of playing with them, practicing basically. So she would call, I would just repeat, do exactly what she did. She'd get mad and do it again. I'd do what she did. So we just went back and forth for, probably 20 or 30 minutes, like just yelling back and forth at each other. And I'd interrupt her sometimes, and then she'd get madder. And so went on. And then I was about to ask Robbie, like, how long do we keep doing this? Yeah. Like, do we just quit so they'll wander off? And then we heard this clucking. It was closer than they were. And we were like, wait a minute, that's a turkey. Like, that's definitely a turkey. So I started clucking. Like, I started doing what she was doing, or we didn't know he or she at the time. So I just started doing what she was doing, and she kept getting closer. And then the other ones would answer. And then we finally saw her, it was her, come out and like walk in front of us, maybe 40 or 50 yards away, and then basically turned and walked right beside us, maybe 10 or 15 yards away, and just kept clucking and carrying on. And then she got past us. And so then I started talking to the other ones again because they were still going. And then all of a sudden we hear it. Just hammering
wait,
it.
that's not how it sounds.
I didn't stick my head out the first time. And of course we're like, oh man, yes, there's a gobbler with her. And so kind of switched gears a little bit. So they were still going, but he was coming toward us. Like I think we called her Clucker. Like I think Clucker was critical. I think he was like, oh, I want to be with that girl. So he was coming to her. So just kept kind of calling, then started purring a little bit so that it would be another little sound that he, maybe would entice him a little bit more. And sure enough, eventually he worked his way up and came straight around in front of us. And you could tell he was trying to come around behind me. Like he was looking for me. And he was about 30, 35 yards away, right in front. It was Robbie's turn, so.
So you called it in.
Yep.
Called him in for Robbie.
Yep.
And then there was some celebrating going on, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So.
Cheering and jumping up and down, and some picture taking, of course, and video. And it was exciting. That was super fun. Look, we were good. We were happy. We were like, yes, we did it. We got one. Yeah, marry him down. Woohoo. Because neither of us have ever killed one. That was the first time we'd ever hunted one, much less killed one. So we were in seventh heaven. We were good to go. And so we were like, okay, we better start heading back. And then.
and then. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So it's cool because like these are stories that, we have some pretty fun stories, but like nothing like this nothing that went together all this well has ever happened for us. So it was really neat. So we're hiking out and still calling a little bit just to make sure nothing's nearby. And we'd gotten to this one point. I mean, we were probably, 300 or 400 yards from the truck at this point.
And just because he tagged out, you're still hunting because you still had a tag.
Right.
So, it
so,
wasn't like celebrate and let's go.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, oh, maybe, we're walking out. I'm like, maybe we'll get me one on the way out. So, but of course, I was kind of like, maybe we will get me one on the way out. And so went away, just took our time, but no, not trying to cause too much of a ruckus. And so we had stopped to something, I don't know. And I hear a gobble, like not far away at all. So I'm like, Robbie. And he's like, what? A gobble. He's like, are you sure? So he believed me, thankfully. And he's like, well, let's get set up. So he sat up behind me this time because now, he doesn't have a tag anymore. So I'm the one doing the shooting. So he's doing the calling. And this one only took Robbie's took us, I think we figured out about 48 minutes from the time we heard the first hens till we got him to come in. This one I think was like 10 or 12 minutes. Like he came straight once we started calling and kind of wandered around a little bit, but then popped out on top of a hill, and he was going to try to come behind us too. And I was facing him, but not where he came out. So I had to wait for him to get behind these big pine trees and had to shift around real quick. And then basically ended up having to shift a couple times because he was a little bit too far away until he got between, basically I had enough room to shoot him between the trees, and that was it. And we figured out he was probably about 39 yards away.
So right at the limit with that 410.
Yeah. You probably could shoot further, but I wouldn't. I wasn't going to shoot any further than that.
Yeah.
And took the shot and hit him. And he, at first I wasn't sure I hit him because he didn't just flop over, but then he ran 6 or 7 yards and just fell over. And it was over but the celebrating. And of course we did a lot of that too. So.
A lot of celebrating. Yeah. And so we actually, we had hunted a little bird. We had messed with some elk because you guys saw deer. We ran into elk that we were calling, and it's pretty cool to be out there and kind of see nature and
for sure
communicate and all of that. We did hunt the one that had took off from you guys. We went after him, realized he was a jake, and that's when we got sidetracked with the elk. But we had agreed, we're going to meet back at the truck at noon. And so we showed up there and we'll just eat our lunch and wait. You guys were a little late.
A little bit late.
And as you know from stories, okay, if you're a day late, whatever.
Yeah. We'll get back sometime. It's fine.
It's fine. Well, but then we were thinking, maybe they got a bird. Maybe, we're thinking these things. And actually I was hoping, I hope they got a bird. And then I just decided I was going to lay down and take a nap. I'm like, okay, I'll just take a nap while we're waiting. Get all comfy and lay down. And then I hear you, hey, sorry we're late.
You got a little tied up.
And I see Adrian with a bird, and she turns, I see her bird, and I was like, oh, wow, cool. And then I look, and then I'm like, wait, they both have birds. So it was super cool.
Yes. That was because I shot mine at 12:01. So yeah, we were late. But yeah, that was fun. That was a good day.
Super cool. Super cool. And so, your whole setups, both of them worked great. Obviously, you both are great at calling birds, and they cooperated this time of year. They're coming to call, so that works perfectly. Huge. And is there anything you think you guys, I know you were successful, but is there anything you think you would do differently?
No, which is odd because usually I can think of about 50 things, but especially getting in that one tree, being all with Robbie's bird, because I went back, after it was all over, I went and looked and I could barely see him.
Yeah.
So, the turkey wasn't going to see us. And then just being able to, basically when mine started gobbling, sat down at the biggest tree that we could, and get hidden as best we could.
Yeah.
So, no, like I said, usually I can come up with about 50 things. Man, what if we'd have done this? But no, they both just worked amazingly, which is awesome and rare. Rarely do things come together that well.
Yeah. And 2 in one day. And for them to cooperate as much as they did, you guys didn't have to run and gun too much. So that was really cool. What do you think will be the next one on your list? You have, are you going to go home and hunt turkeys again? And
So North Carolina doesn't end till May 13th. So we'll go home and hunt some, hopefully, as long as we can find somewhere to go. Our other spots are anyway, that's a different story, but we're not sure how those are going to play out. So we'll have to find somewhere. But then hopefully, so Tennessee, which is right next door, obviously, to North Carolina, they shifted their whole season back a couple weeks. So we may get to go to Tennessee and hunt a little bit if that all works out. So that should be fun.
And you're hunting Easterns there. Miriam's here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, the goal is to get all 4 North American birds. Well, I guess 4 USA birds.
Yeah.
Because I guess the Gould is still North American, but maybe someday there. But definitely, get a Rio probably next. Osceola is probably going to be the last just because it's so hard to get in Florida and get that done. But, someday We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, cool.
It'll be fun.
Well, hopefully the next hunt will be as fun or as successful.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, part of the fun of the hunt is the challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Yeah. You know, I think we were talking about this, is if it's too easy, it's not, I mean, it's fun, but if you just show up and you're like, oh, here they are. It's like, oh, well, that's all you have to do. The challenge makes it fun. If it wasn't challenging, it wouldn't be near as fun.
Yeah.
So, you want it to be easy, but then you don't want it to be a gimme.
Right.
You like to feel like you had to work a little bit for something.
So you as a hunter, hey, women hunters, do you have any tips for somebody who would want to be getting started in hunting, or maybe they've hunted deer and they want to do turkey hunting? Like, do you have a good tip for them? Any advice?
I would say, like, find someone who would want to do it with you. Like, I mean, people obviously can do it on their own. People go out and turkey hunt on their own all the time, but I'm not as comfortable. One, because I have a horrendous sense of direction. So, like, I don't want to be traipsing around by myself. I can get lost, and Onyx helps with that, but still. But two, like, if you can find someone to mentor you, and even if like the first year or two, you're not shooting, because especially where I'm from, like, if you're just like, hey, can somebody take me hunting? Like, probably not, because everybody's trying to hunt too. But if you're like, hey, I want to learn, can I just come? I don't even have to shoot this time. I don't have to have a gun. I just want to, learn. People would probably be a lot more receptive to taking you. And then, there's always people who are like, I don't care. I'll if I can call it in, I'm just as happy. So they might let you shoot. But I would say that would be the way I would start, would be find someone who would let you offer to come and just learn.
Yeah.
And then, maybe
and then try to learn as much as you can.
Yes. Yeah.
Forever.
Always. Every time. That'd be the thing too. Like, every time you go with someone new, try to learn something. Because everybody has different ways and different reasons. And yeah. So that'd be huge. Every chance you get, learn something.
And for me, the animals teach me something different every time too. Just when you think you have them figured out, they're like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we said about Robbie's bird, is like messing with those hens and like hearing her do that. It was almost like that bubble cluck you hear people do. Like, before we were like, I've never heard anybody, never heard a turkey do that. And now we're like, oh, they do that, so having that chance to like interact with them and learn, like, that was, I think we both learned a lot during that interchange. So yeah, learn, always learn. Always learn.
Totally. You can never know it all. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the listeners, thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I want to let them know where they can find you, or anything you want to let them know. I know you've got some new stuff going on, so go ahead and give yourself a shout out.
So we have several avenues where you can keep up. We have a website that we're finishing up, kind of perfecting, or, well, I don't know if you can ever be perfect, and that is reviewthisthingtv.com. And then our YouTube channel, Review This Thing, that's where you can see most of the weekly reviews. Sometimes during all of this TSS pattern testing, we were doing 2 a week, so we could get them all in. But every Sunday, we have a review that comes out. And, of course, Instagram, Review This Thing, Facebook, TikTok, they're all Review This Thing. And, yeah, so subscribe to our newsletter from our website, subscribe to our channel, watch them all, share them with your friends, all that good stuff, because all that helps tremendously. So,
yeah.
If ever you get a chance, push play, let it play, and hit like.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, awesome. I'm so glad that you guys got your birds. I'm so glad that you guys had success.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you agreed to come on and share the story and some tips with my audience. Is there any other gear that you think people should know about?
I would say boots are huge. The boots that I've been wearing for turkey hunting, because I want to be agile and mobile, and are the ones I found that I really like are the Under Armour Hover Dawn. So they're waterproof and they're like sneaker boots, so you can like move fast, and I really like those. Base layers, and like I have a certain kind that I've been wearing for a while, but like just make sure you have really good base layers, that whether it's, because even if it's warm at chilly in the morning, you want to have something that you can get rid of, or so base layers.
And is that true for North Carolina also?
Yeah, because we can have some mornings, especially early season, where it's like in the 30s, but then gets up to like 70 or 80 by the middle of the day. So just having layers layers that'll keep you comfortable through all those ranges of temperatures.
Yeah.
That's probably...
And I would say turkey hunting tip is no colors. You want camo. You don't want the
pink.
Blaze orange. You don't want pink. And actually, Leah did kill a bird with turquoise Solomon's on.
Really?
Yeah, but she's kind of an anomaly.
She's special.
She's special. Yeah, so no colors, no shiny objects.
Yeah, don't move.
Cover them up with camo. Yeah.
No moving. I think that's probably one of the things that is the most challenging when you first start, is because you want to like move your head and look, and you want to make hurry and move your gun to where it sounds like they're coming from. And like you can do that if they're not where, if you're
not in eyesight of them.
But
so
if they
when
can
they're behind
see
a tree,
you,
something like that. We actually one time were stalking to get closer to a tom that wasn't coming, and Leah and I, and we both were sneaking through the woods, and mid-stride there's like 5 poults. They're like, we see you, and we just froze. And literally both of us were kind of on one leg with just a toe touching the ground. It was like freeze. And we stood there for I don't know how long. And finally they just they went away. So just stay still.
Stay still. Very still.
Keep going.
Yeah. That was probably the hardest, is because you want to see what's going on. But you can. You just have to, like I said, wait for a tree or wait for them to turn all the way around. But yeah, be still. Don't have shiny things.
And then what do you do with a turkey after the shot, after you're done?
Get ready to eat.
Get ready to eat.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite recipe?
So we've made turkey tacos, and I call them turkey joes. So just making sloppy joes out of it, grind it up like burger. And we make some turkey nuggets, and those were pretty good. That's a little different because I'm not a great cook or food preparer by any stretch. So like, I feel like there's a correct way to cut the meat so that it isn't as tough, and I don't know all that. So we just mainly grind it up so that it makes really good burgers or tacos and turkey joes. And we made chorizo this week. I don't know what day it is. And it was really, really good. So we'll definitely keep doing that with the turkey, probably with some deer and maybe some wild hog. If we get some of that, that'll be really, really good. So thank you for that recipe. I know we'll be using that.
Very cool. Well, I kind of was wrapping up, and then I was like, wait a second.
Let's talk about food.
Everybody's got to eat.
Yeah.
So you can find recipes on miaanstine.com. You can review this thing on social media. I will put links in the show notes to all of the sites that we've talked about and to some of the product reviews, so you can go find those. And you can reach out on email, contact@miaanstine.com, or go find and comment on social media, Mac Outdoors on Instagram and Facebook, or Mia Anstine on other social media outlets. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Right.
It was fun.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.